Morning. Yeah, it's cool in here. We'll keep everybody awake. Uh, anyway, Iowa has experienced success in job growth here in recent years. Many businesses are expanding and moving into our state, and more Iowans are now working than ever before. The unemployment rate is down to 3.7%. I believe that makes us the sixth lowest in the nation. Jobs moving into Iowa communities are both attracting current Iowans to move within our state as well as um, under the home base Iowa program, veterans to uh, come back after the or to come to Iowa for the first time after leaving the military. And we have an opportunity to welcome new people to the state. This is in turn creating the need for additional workforce housing for these workers in communities across Iowa. And the Lieutenant Governor and I hear this as we travel across the state. Affordable housing is at the core of thriving uh, families and communities, and having adequate housing for our workforce is vital for Iowa to continue to grow. Today, we're proud to announce an innovative new program administered by the Iowa Finance Authority to address this need. The new Workforce Housing Loan Program will provide affordable financing that will allow communities to develop workforce rental housing to meet the demand in their community. The program has a total of 5 million dollars available to provide financial assistance in the form of low repayment loans to cities and counties. Funding for the program is provided by the Iowa Finance Authority and includes no state tax money. I will now turn it over to Lieutenant Governor Reynolds to provide additional information about this exciting new opportunities for Iowa cities and counties.
Well, good morning, and thank you, Governor Branstad. The new Workforce Housing Loan Program at IFA will help ensure our workforce has affordable housing options in close proximity to their jobs to allow them to grow and thrive in communities all across this great state. As Governor mentioned, with our unemployment rate dropping to 3.7%, rural communities are seeing shortages in affordable housing. This program will serve as another tool to assist those communities. The Workforce Housing Loan Program is available to all cities and counties in Iowa, and it's available on a competitive basis. However, cities with a population of less than 50,000 that have shown an annual job growth during the last 3 years will be awarded additional points in the competitive scoring process. Other considerations in the scoring process that will garner additional points include, but are not limited to, the amount of financial support at the local level, employer investment in the proposed workforce housing project, and whether or not they are designated as a home-based Iowa or a Great Places community. Workforce housing units will be limited to households earning 140% or less of the statewide median income, which is about $94,500 for 2015. Rents will be comparable with the local housing market. And now I would like to bring to the podium Director Dave Jamison of IFA. Dave?
Thank you, Governor and Lieutenant Governor. Good morning. I'm pleased to be here. The Iowa Finance Authority is proud to offer the Workforce Housing Loan Program as a tool for Iowa communities to fulfill the need of additional workforce housing. The maximum loan amount will be $1 million or $50,000 per assisted housing rental unit. The loans will be repayable with a 1% interest rate and a maximum term of 20 years. The city or county may loan or grant the borrowed funds to a workforce housing developer or owner to construct the project. Applications for the initial Workforce Housing Loan Program funding, the funding round, are due to the Iowa Finance Authority by November 2nd, 2015. We look forward to working in partnership with cities to assist in meeting the housing needs of their expanding workforce, and I encourage all cities to review the program information at iowafinanceauthority.gov to see if this program may be the one or it may be a good fit for their needs. So thank you.
Okay, we'd open it for questions on this subject first. Yes?
It's $5 million and maximum 50, so this should be about 100,000 units.
Approximately, yes. So they can get up to $1 million for the project, but that's the maximum. It's 50,000 per unit. So if it's less than that, it could be a few more units.
Okay, but in the ballpark,
Yes.
100 units.
Right.
So this isn't
This is just one program that's available to try to help communities that are having a challenge finding a way to have housing for their growing workforce. But there's many others, and I think in some communities, some of the larger communities, this is going on. In some of the more rural communities, Lieutenant Governor, our hearing, we're having a hard time finding developers that will come and build the housing we need. So we think this program can help in some of those communities. Other questions?
I want to make a point, Governor. Just want to make a point too. This is not intended to fund the whole project. So this is, our funds are part of a greater project cost.
Other questions on this?
So is there like a statewide initiative to fund rural housing in communities? And this is just a piece of this, is this what you're spearheading at? I just want to make sure that I'm clear on that.
Well, this is a pilot program and I think economic development also has some other programs that are available. So this is a new pilot project that's being added to what's already being done.
So is it possible for the legislature then to come in and maybe provide like $100 million for this?
Well, there's no state tax money in this, and obviously, there's a lot of demands in terms of state revenue, and I'm sure you're aware of the fact that due to depressed farm income and the bird flu, we have some challenges in terms of revenue situation. Although I want to put this in perspective, I was governor during the farm crisis of the 80s. We don't have the debt load we had then, but I think agriculture is still a very important part of the Iowa economy. And although we're having a record harvest, and we're real pleased with that, when the price of corn and soybeans are below the cost of production, that means that farmers are not going to, like they had in the years, say 2005 through about 2013, they had good income, and that obviously meant they were purchasing equipment, and that money was rolling through the Iowa economy. So right now, that's not occurring, and we have to be cognizant of that fact. Well, it depends upon the community. That's not true.
That is not true.
There's a number of smaller communities of the state that have been successful in economic development. A good example would be Greene County, where there is a critical housing need. And it's not a big county. And there's a lot of, Jefferson is the largest city in that county. But there's a lot of economic activity going on there. And they were the first to be a home-based Iowa community, and they've had a lot of activity going on there. I was just at Van Bauer has got a new manufacturing facilities building. And of course, they got the new casino, and there's just a lot of activity. And so for communities like that, we think this could meet a critical need.
Yeah, and just last week I was in Cresco and Osage and Waukon and Lennox, and in every single one of those communities, Shenandoah, they talked about the need for housing and workforce development. And a lot of the communities are actually putting in place their own program. And so with this pilot program, it's another infusion of additional cash, hopefully coming in to help grow and provide not only rental units, but single family housing also is an issue in small communities all across the state. So it's workforce housing, workforce housing. We hear that continually as we travel across the state.
Other questions? We take other subjects as well.
Could you just continue on with
Yep.
with the budget situation?
Yep.
You know, already seen that last week was that revenues will be down. Do you think you're going to have to make budget cuts when the legislature comes back?
This fiscal year, no.
You don't think?
No, I don't think so. The good news is that we've been fiscally responsible, and we've made tough decisions to reduce the size and cost of government over the last 5 years. We've restored all the money in the cash reserve and economic emergency account. And so I think we are well prepared to meet the challenges that we're facing. I also think that obviously we need to wait until we have the December revenue estimate. By law, my budget is going to be based on the December revenue estimate. So Uh, I think we need to look at it in perspective. Is even though the prices are down, the word I get from the field is a bountiful harvest. I talked to my brother and um, on the home farm where I grew up, when I was a kid, we thought 80, 100 bushels an acre corn was good. We got 270 bushels to the acre. This is not some of the best land in Iowa either. So that's phenomenal. And I don't, I think, but so I don't think 200 bushel uh, yields are going to be out of line in the state of Iowa this year. But still, the price of corn is below the cost of production. So that additional yield will help some. But still, we're going to have a situation where farmers may be closer to breaking even instead of a big loss. Well, we have a lot of people that receive Social Security, but Social Security uh, is not taxable. We've eliminated the tax on Social Security, I'm proud to say. So on the state level, and consequently, but it will have an impact on those people that don't get an increase, and many of them are going to see an increase. Some will have an increase in their uh, Medicare. Is it Part B? I think so. Some will see an increase in their Medicare Part B and not get an increase in their Social Security benefits. So, right, right. But consumer spending, obviously, if it's food and prescription drugs, it's exempt from sales tax. But if they're purchasing things that are subject to sales tax, it has some impact on state revenues. Well, the federal government has big, big budget problems, and they haven't even resolved their budget problems or their debt ceiling. So I think they ought to run more like we do, and that is balance the budget and and not just continue to spend more than they're taking in. I think that's critically important. And the other thing that impacts a lot of senior citizens that have been frugal and save money is they're getting virtually nothing for the money they have in CDs or in savings because the federal government has kept interest rates so rock bottom low for so long that they're not only not getting an increase in their Social Security, they're really what little savings they have is being impacted. And in Iowa, some of those people also own farmland, and with the drop in commodity prices, there's pressure to reduce those rents. And in fact, some of the tenants are terminating the leases because they can't afford the rents that they've been paying here recently. So, yeah, and that's all the more reason why we need to be cautious about the level of spending in light of the circumstances that we're in. Well, far be it from me to try to tell the Federal Reserve what to do. I think a lot of people feel that that has been long overdue, but because of the weakness in the economy worldwide, the Federal Reserve, and I'm not going to try to second guess the Federal Reserve. I would say I know the impact that it can have. I saw the impact that high interest rates had when I was first governor in the 80s. It was devastating and this is really high interest, double-digit interest rates when, and that led to the farm crisis to some degree. I understand why they did it. They did it to bring inflation under control, but it was a painful experience that we went through in the 80s. And I think they have the responsibility to manage the economy. And it's really tough because the fiscal policy of the United States has not been well managed by the president and the Congress. And consequently, the Federal Reserve has been asked to do things that, to a great degree, I think are virtually impossible. No. They have supported it and passed a bill twice that would have done something similar to that. And they all supported it. in the Rules Review Committee. I would, well, they pushed it back to July 1 because it would coincide with the new fiscal year. And that makes sense to me. But this was something requested by the Iowa Taxpayers Association because with the modern improvements in manufacturing, the Lieutenant Governor and I visited a lot of these factories. Advanced manufacturing today is a lot different than it was 20, 30 years ago. And the whole idea of the sales tax was to be a consumption tax on the final product, not a tax on things that go into making those products. And consequently, because there's been no clear definition, there's been a lot of litigation, there's been a lot of appeals involving this. This will correct that. And I think in terms of public policy, I don't hear anybody really arguing that we ought to be taxing this. So I think what they did is appropriate, and I certainly support it. And I know the House passed legislation that would have done something similar to this on a couple of occasions. So I don't expect that Republicans in the legislature are going to change their mind on this issue.
Did you look to Washington and see what Republicans have done in not cracking down on President Obama's executive actions and giving over
No. This is no change in the law. This is merely a clarification to modernize the definition under what modern manufacturing is all about. And this is something the Iowa Taxpayers Association, the Association of Business and Industry, and people that are knowledgeable on this have felt for a long time needed to be clarified.
15%, I think, of the questions coming in, right?
Yeah, 15% of the
15%
appeals.
Of the appeals going into the Department of Revenue were based on clarification of this rule.
So what about the rest? What other tax cuts do you get?
No, I understand. Listen, I came from the legislative branch of government. I have always respected our system, which has responsibilities and that's why I want to work with the legislature on dealing with issues. And when I have taken executive action, I've been very careful to review the responsibility of the chief executive, because I do have important executive responsibilities to carry out the laws and to see that they're administered in a fair way. And this is one that was not fair and was not modern and needed to be, we needed a definition that fit the modern manufacturing, the fact that we have advanced manufacturing today that is dramatically different than it was 20, 30 years ago.
But you
This, first of all, I'm not doing it. It is being, well, yes, but it's being, well, the Department of Revenue has responded to a request from the Iowa Taxpayers Association, which represents a lot of the businesses in the state of Iowa, with the support of the Iowa Association of Business and Industry. And they carefully, over a period of time, reviewed and determined this is an area that needed a more clear definition in light of the fact that a lot of the appeals have been in this area. And so they developed this definition and are going through the normal rulemaking process. And that's exactly what's going on. The DOR, the Department of Revenue, this, as I pointed out, is something that was requested by the Iowa Taxpayers Association. And the Department of Revenue has responded to that and spent some time to try to come up with what they feel is a realistic and appropriate definition under the changed circumstances in manufacturing that we have with advanced manufacturing today. Yeah, I'm for the Hawkeyes. They won 40-10. They had a great second half comeback. The Hawkeye program, I'm aware of that. Well, first of all, the Iowa Medicaid program which was expanded to include Hawkeye back in 1998, my last year as governor before, is in the process. We're doing what 25 other states have done, and that is going to a managed care system to better coordinate benefits and to try to avoid duplication and sometimes problems that come for. Right now, we've got a system where you might have somebody that has 5 or 6 different providers and they don't communicate with each other. Consequently, you can have people being given one drug by one provider, one that conflicts with that by another, and they end up in the hospital. We want to try to avoid those kind of situations. We want to try to do a better job of delivering the service. We spent a whole year preparing for this, and we've gone out for bids, and we've got 4 providers that have significant experience in other states that have now signed contracts to deliver those services. Well, first of all, every year, the Department of Human Services gives us an estimate of what they think Medicaid is going to cost. It's a range, and we have always chosen the mid-range because we feel that's the most reasonable approach. Senate Democrats wanted to double count, and they wanted to count $102 million worth of savings. This is Amanda Reagan's subcommittee, and we were able to finally convince them before the end of the session that that wasn't reasonable, that 51 million was the mid-range and the more reasonable amount. And consequently, that's the figure that was included in the budget that was approved by both the House and the Senate and sent to me. And if you followed Medicaid over the last 30, 40 years, you know there are times that their Medicaid estimates have been way off, and we were stuck with providing a supplemental appropriation in the next fiscal year. I worked hard when I was governor before to stop those bad practices and basically pushing obligations into future years and trying to use the best, most reasonable estimate. And that's what was done this time, using the mid-range. And we're going to do our level best. And we think the predictability and the experience that other states have gotten through managed care improves the likelihood that the estimate will be more accurate than it's been in the past.
Senator Polk asked, I have 2 questions. Senator Polk asked, would you provide the details? People are saying that you pulled this figure out.
No. First of all, I don't have any. This is the information that the Department of Revenue has done forever. Michael?
Human Services.
Yeah, Human Services. Michael, I don't know if you have any more on this. Michael is my expert on this stuff.
So the Department of Human Services in the lead up to the budget last year worked with actuaries who have been under contract for many years on assessing what other states have seen and what we could see in savings. The savings estimate ranged, as you all know. The Department of Human Services, as the governor mentioned, picked that middle point based on not only what other states have seen, but what our actuaries thought was prudent. And that midpoint, in the end, received bipartisan support so that we could count on that for the coming budget year.
Provide us with documents showing that. That's the question, because our understanding is that hasn't been provided.
Well,
will you provide us the records request that I'm requesting right now to show us those documents showing the man how he did it?
Well, our office does not administer or oversee absolutely. And our office does not administer or oversee the Medicaid projections. Rather, that is handled by the Department of Human Services, as well as in conjunction with LSA and the Department of Management for the budget projections. So it is done in partnership, but the Department of Human Services has worked on that and has continued to work on what those savings estimates will be for once we move fully to managed care.
Will you give it to us? That's the question. You haven't done it so far.
I would talk to the Department of Human Services who has handled that, and I will work with Director Chuck Palmer on getting you what we have for the estimates that we worked with our actuaries on calculating.
Okay, so you will provide us with information showing the math. Is that right?
What we're telling you is it's a range, and it's that range is what's been used by the Department of Human Services as long as I can remember. And I can tell you, uh, we went through this before with the legislature back in the 80s and 90s, and they would choose the low end of the, they would choose the high end of the range in terms of savings in order to put less money in the budget, and that was not right. And so we said, no, wait a minute. We know that this is a entitlement program, and so that we just have to use the best estimate we have. That's what we've always done. There's nothing different about this. This is the way it's always been done, and we use the mid-range. The problem was Senate Democrats wanted to go back and double and double count and say, no, it's going to be 102 million. And we worked very hard during the session to back them off that to get to this figure of 51 million. And that's what they and the House agreed upon. So this went through a lot of discussion during the legislative session. And that's the agreement. And I can tell you, I have seen this year after year. And I believe that this year's process turned out to be better than some we've seen in the past, when the legislature has arbitrarily decided we're going to consider higher level of savings than is realistic.
Can I just ask you about Branstad? He sent out a press release Friday saying that you had agreed to meet with lawyers and representatives of family leaders to explain how to defund Planned Parenthood.
Well, we've met with all kinds of people, and I've met with them and others. I would just say that you just had another court case come down over the weekend. I have not seen any state where they've been successful in arbitrarily defunding Planned Parenthood. Governor Jindal tried that. The court ruled against him. That's been true, I think, in Alabama and Arkansas and Utah and other states. So listen, I'm pro-life, and I want to do what we realistically can do, but I also feel an obligation to act within the law. Well, I was leaving a restaurant and had a conversation with an old friend. And I'm not going to comment on a private conversation with an old friend. Just to say that I respect the fact that advocates are frustrated and want to see more. I also feel an obligation to follow the law and stay within my legal authority. And that's the action that I've taken. And I'm going to continue to work with the legislature on this issue as well. I'm not going to get into the restaurant and those kind of things. I think there are some things that are private, even in my life.